I'm so excited to be here today with none other than Fonda Lee, our New York Times bestselling author and award-winning novelist for the Green Bone Saga. We have Breath of the Dragon, The Untethered Sky, and we're here to hype up the release of the Last Contract of Isako. How are you feeling up to release?
So I am at that point. I've been through this a few times now. So I am just, I guess, a few days away from the release. And I find the couple of weeks right before the book comes out is like, for those of you who have any experience with it, but hopefully it's self-explanatory even for those who don't. It's like the last couple of weeks of pregnancy where you're like, just let it be over with. Like, let me get through this. Let it finally like be done. But there are like 1,001 little things to do, and yet you're also in this like this calm before the storm. So that's where I'm at right now. It's kind of a funny emotional state to be in, but it never gets old. Even the 11th time around, I guess, for me.
It's like that there's nothing else to do but to just let
Right.
it fly, right? Like, what are you going
Yeah.
to do at week 39? You've got no other option. It's coming
Right.
out, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can buy more things for the nursery. You can like, do more baby proofing. Like there's a lot of little things you can do, but yet also you're like in a little bit of a holding pattern.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, with this being your 11th child into the world, does it feel different than some of the other releases that you've done now that you've got a couple of these under your belt?
Yeah, it definitely does because mentally and emotionally for me, it's there's not really a ton of surprises. Like I know how the publication process works. I know how book launches happen and book tours happen. That part is familiar, but every book is different, and so the anxiety of is still there of like, oh, this is my baby going out into the world, and like, are people gonna love it? Are people gonna hate it? Like, what are they gonna think? And there's still that there is still, of course, that anticipation. But in my where I am in my career now, it's less about, hey, I am an author. Let me, introduce myself and try to get your attention and convince you to buy my book. And a little more on the side of like, hey, everyone who has read any of my previous books, please come back and pick up my new book. And so there as you kind of go along in your career, it's a little bit more like less you're less of an unknown quantity. People kind of know what to expect from you to a certain extent now. Even though the book is completely different and new, you are trying to like tell the people who have been readers of your work in the past to please come back and support you again.
Yeah, and I'll say in the small corner of the internet that I operate in, it's heavily focused on Greenbone. The algorithm works very well, given that that is my Roman Empire per se. There is a lot of excitement, and there's a lot of feelings around it being so different and a standalone. Because what you did for us within the context of the trilogy short stories novella of Greenbone, how are we going to feel with only a few hundred pages in a story?
Right.
So, how would you want to pitch it to the Greenbone fans? Like, what would your elevator of here's your pathway from
Yeah.
Greenbone to Isako?
Yeah. It's kind of tricky because clearly it is a different book, a very different world. It's science fiction instead of fantasy. It's a standalone instead of a trilogy. The Green Bone Saga is currently is sort of recent modern era family saga. Isako is like cyberpunk science fiction with dystopian vibes. It's very like around the very focused around Isako's journey. So there's definitely significant differences. But I would say like for those people who have followed my work before and who love in-depth world building, who love like complicated characters, who like twisty plots with a lot of political intrigue, who like a good knife fight. Those elements are still part of the DNA of me as an author. So I think that people who come to Isako will definitely notice differences, but will still see those commonalities that are just kind of part of me and what I like to put on a page.
As someone who's been fortunate enough to have experienced both already, you're right, it's the foundation and the DNA in let's go over here and play in this world. The Arctic tundra.
Right. Yeah, very
Um,
different from the steamy, humid, crowded streets of John Loon, taking you to like
totally.
bleak, frozen tundra. Different vibes for sure.
Yeah. Without self-inserting too much of my experience with Isako and where I was at in my career at the time, what do you want readers to take away from this story it is emotional, even though it is brutal. And I'm curious on what your takeaways are, because I don't want to, again, think too much of myself in that.
It is hard to express this without spoiling the ending. So
Okay.
but I will try to I'll try to give an answer that is vague enough. But uh, I, I think that, you know, Isako was a bit of therapy for me as a character. as, as someone, who's, not almost her age and who had a background as a management consultant and had a business career. And, I put a lot of kind of like, I guess, almost a like personal self-reflective thought experiment into her, because when I started off my career, I was working 70 hours a week in client service and traveling around the country and making spreadsheets and pivot tables and PowerPoint presentations. And you know I there was a there's a part of me that went into Isako that asked the question, what if that had been my whole life? Like, what if that was the path that I take it instead of, writing science fiction and fantasy novels, which is, quite a large diversion from where I started off originally. And I, I think given Isako's story, what I wanted to kind of find for myself and also express to readers is there's a lot of things you can't change. There's a lot that Isako cannot control. And she is such a legendary and accomplished badass in her society. But there's things that are just above her control, like the goings on and the sort of nefarious, shadowy things that are happening in the company, and the arc of her own life. You can't control getting older, and that's just kind of reality that we all live with. And what I hope comes across in the story is that, yeah, there are these things that you can't change, you can't control, and some of them are really hard to deal with. But you can control how you react and how you choose to live your life. And that's I hope what people leave the story with.
I am only one point of data in that, but that is a strong resonation at the end of that book for myself as well. In the depths, I'll say, of corporate America right now, using reading as an escapism. I did, and when I originally reached out, that pseudotherapy line that I said was so true. I finished it and I was like, oh, a means to escape in my reading, after my 9 to 5, which is never
Yeah,
9 to 5.
right.
Let me just take a step back and escape somewhere else. And I was like, oh no, this is,
This is a little bit too close to real life.
yeah. So I must ask for myself, do you miss the pivot table? Do you ever find yourself tracking something in Excel just because you don't see it as much anymore?
I mean, I definitely have, my Excel spreadsheets still exist, but now they track like details in my novels and like
Yeah.
timeline elements and things like that. So so yes, there's definitely like things about that life that were like super exciting and fun at the time, right? Like gosh, I had a lot of airline status and like having an expense account was nice. And like being 20 something and being in these like important business meetings with like CEOs, like wow, that was so it was so invigorating. But I have not felt a single moment of regret
Oh,
leaving that behind and becoming a writer. um, Not to say being a writer is any easier. It's certainly not. Like I have worked harder at being a writer than I ever did, including the long hours spent in Excel and PowerPoint. But I I feel so much that I'm doing what I am meant to do, and that makes the world a better place. Like at the end of the day, like I write books that hopefully people enjoy and that makes them happier. And that has like even despite all the vagaries of publishing and the difficulties of trying to navigate a creative career. No, I don't miss the office. I'm very glad that I took this unexpected path.
yeah. And it's funny now, again, somebody who has immersed themselves very deeply into Greenbone, the Weatherman's office and Shay, and it it was there the whole time. And to see Isako, I'm like, oh, it was like right there the whole time. How did was there any point in time where you spent maybe in the Weatherman's office and you're like, actually, was there a translation into Isako, or is it just two experiences that manifest, or one experience that manifested in two different ways?
Well, definitely a lot of as a writer's personal life and experiences find their way onto the page in some manner, and it I'm not going to escape, my training and my background. So you will find that no matter, the fantasy world that I create, that like economics factors into it in some way. Like a fantasy world doesn't really feel fully formed to me unless I understand it's how it works from an economic standpoint. And like the Green Bone Saga, everything from like okay, the Kacon Jade Alliance and the Weatherman's office and like the alliances that form and how the Lantern Men pay tribute, like all of that, like the businessy stuff is just as interesting and exciting to me as like Greenbone culture and the horn side of the clan. For me, I want those scenes of like the business dealings and the political intrigue to feel just as tense and as integral to the story as the knife fights and the combat. And in Isako, absolutely, it had a huge impact on the story, both from like Isako's perspective and the work that she does. I mean, there's a scene that this isn't too much of a spoiler, but in order to be licensed to do her job, she has to do the equivalent of a case interview. And I've done a lot of case interviews. She basically does. I mean, her case interviews are more stressful than mine were and dangerous. But that said, that there's absolutely things that like I've pulled and you kind of take and repackage into the fantasy or science fiction world. And I think all authors do that to some extent, and that's what makes world building super fun.
And you have the unique experience of not only this side of the political business intrigue from your corporate life, but also your martial arts background, that you make these beautiful, unique scenarios, right? It's not just political intrigue and like, oh, I kind of know a little bit about battle scenes and fight scenes. You're like, actually, I got them both, and I'm gonna marry them magically.
That is what I like to do. I mean, that's absolutely something that's common to Green Bone Saga and Isako is
Yeah.
boardroom meetings, sword fights, like together.
Are those not the same? And it's funny too because spending any amount of time in that, sometimes you feel like that, right? Like you
Yeah,
go in and you're like, I gotta prepare and train and practice my pitch,
right.
um, versus I need to do this on a business level as a samurai. Sometimes you feel like your pivot table is your
Is your
sword,
weapon
right?
coming armed with more analysis than the other person?
Or like, let me think of like, and this is again probably my own self insertion of anticipating the person's question. So let me have an answer because I think they're going to ask this, but I'll
Right,
let them ask it because they like
right,
to
right.
ask the questions.
Yeah.
So how studying their fighting style so that I know how to like train up for it as someone who has no physical fighting skill. I see the
You're,
parallels in
you're,
that.
it's totally true, right? And that's why, like, I think the like scenes where the physical combat happens are like they're only compelling if there's also like kind of the non-physical like stuff that leads to it, like that conflict has to be seeded and nurtured and grown through like non-violent means, or I guess non-physically violent means, in order for like it to feel like this credible cathartic moment when the like violence actually happens.
Yeah. So all of that said, I mean, I feel already so connected with Isako and the world and the corporations made me take a pause back at my own KPIs in life. Um, but as you were going through this world building, do you feel that this is the end all be all of this story, or is there more to explore there in this? You've done the depth building of this.
Yeah, it feels like a standalone to me. And again, without spoiling the ending, I wanted it to end in a way that felt like this is the conclusion. And uh, I is there another story in this world? I don't know. I mean, I think Isiko's story is done, and that was the important thing to me.
Yeah, yeah. Now with that, you're still managing the huge success of the Green Bone Saga and all of the new pieces and plays and refreshes, the different lives it's living with the tabletop games. How do you manage feeding into a thriving saga that has a fan base while also not only new adult releases, but Breath of the Dragon and Mark of the Warrior comes out soon too. Can't
Mhm.
forget about that. You're really all over the place. Is this also an Excel magic trick of keeping track of everything?
It's this Excel spreadsheet in my mind, or rather, I guess my calendar's Tetris. Um, it's interesting because um, the a lot of the payoff to writing a book happens so many years down the road. Like I was looking back and realizing like, next year is the 10th year anniversary of the Greenbone Saga, which is
Wow.
wild. And the wonderful thing about books is that there's no expiry date on them. There's people who are picking up Jade Legacy for the very first time right now, and they're discovering it like over a decade after I wrote it. So, um, so you're right. Is there's still energy that like I love and want to be engaged with. But a lot of that now is on other people. So like the role-playing game adaptation, right? It's like so interesting for me to be have it to be on um at in like a front seat to that process and to see other writers, to see artists and game developers getting to play in my sandbox and taking the characters in the world and expanding them and interpreting them in like a way that works for a different medium. And like the special editions, for example, like seeing new art and the way that like art new artists to the story like interpret those characters and depict them. And so there's still energy that's going on and like, you know, stuff on film side that's kind of or TV side that kind of, you know, chugs along slowly, but like who knows where that's going to go. And so there's that piece of it, but so much of it is on their people's shoulders now. And it's my job more now to be a supporter, a resource, a cheerleader, and to kind of be the spiritual, I guess, spiritual leader of the saga, and to like, and to focus on the creative work of writing new stories. So my like creative mind and like the storytelling mind is in like the new stuff that I'm working on while I'm still like it's like having children who left for college. You know, it's like, yeah, the bulk of my job is done. But like you're an adult now. Like you go and live your life. But like I am here. I am here to support you. If you need me, call me. You know, you can you can always reach me. You can come home for dinner. That's kind of the feeling now for between me and the Green Bone Saga.
And also the joy of starting something and letting it grow into new things and natural things. I think as someone, I mean, I'm in my 30s now, but even my mom will say things like, I just had to let you be your person. Like I did what I could and I tried to make you a good person, but you were going to be whoever you turned out to be. And I had to be okay with that at different points
Yeah.
in, you know, in your upbringing. It feels like in the motherhood world, that's it, analogy to the books. That's where you're at now of like, okay, I did go, go see what adulthood is like for you, 10-year
Yeah.
old Greenbone.
Yep. Yep. And I feel so fortunate because this series has truly thrived by word of mouth. And
Mm.
like, I mean, Amber, I have to thank you so much for being such a cheerleader and proselytizing the books and getting into more people's hands because that is genuinely how this book has found its readership because it's not a really easy book to market. And when it first came out, you know, a lot of people were like, well, what is this? It's not like, it doesn't really fit the traditional labels of like epic fantasy, but it's also not like what we typically think of as urban fantasy. And it's, it's kind of an odd duck. And so it really found its readership gradually because people were like shoving it into other hands and like that is that again back to the idea of like it left home and then you know it just like it landed in such a great place because it just like got a great friend group you know like it's kind of like
Yeah.
you know your kid leaves home and it's like oh my gosh they're like look at how successful they've become because they've got all these great friends that's really how I feel with like the Green Bone Saga is that it has had so much wonderful support from the reading community.
Yeah, I'm just a very small piece of that, but that is incredibly kind to say. I do keep copies to hand out. So I have my display ones, and then I have ones to like, I'm taking away the barrier of your own commitment.
Right,
Here
right.
is here is Jade City, and I have the rest. Um,
I
the
love the
fun
idea of
thing,
having the like the giveaway copy because you know when you lend books you know it's 50-50 whether you ever get them back again which is fine like but it's nice to be like okay these are the ones that like I will relinquish.
and funny enough, I had to get another set when I didn't have to do any of this. It's just my own delusion as well. Of when the new paperbacks came out, I was like, oh, I should keep my original paperbacks with that cover design nicer. So let me get the ones I can get anytime and hand those out. When I came home with a new set, there was definitely another giveaway set. And I did just to share in the beauty of Green Bone, especially from the family dynamic. And maybe this says a little bit more about my family than it should, but I brought them into that world as a birthday, like, oh, like, let's do an experience or what can we do? And I said, I actually want you all to read this book the month before my birthday so we can talk about it. And that's what we did. And it was, you talk about how do you market it, right? Like my dad is a big, like that mafia inspired
Hmm.
backroom brutality. Like Kurt's a big fan now. He's already almost through Jade War. He loves his man, right? And on the other side, my mom still loves those big worlds and action packed, but she can appreciate the politics and the
Hmm.
softness and Wen's story. And
Hmm.
I'm like this, and my brother's a big anime fan, so he was
Hmm.
pulling in pieces of that. And again, I had to pitch it to each of them differently because it's
Right,
not just
right,
a bucket, right?
right.
Um, but it's creating stories that can be shared no matter where you find yourself in your readership is an art I don't think many others are mastering the way that you are. So thank you for giving us things to share with all of our influences.
Well, thank you. And it is so cool and interesting to see what different people gravitate to, what different readers
Yes.
love out of like a book.
Yeah. So you nailed it. There's so many different versions. Do you have a favorite? Do you have a copy or an artwork that really speaks to you in all the different publications for
Oh my
Greenbone?
gosh. I mean, like you said, it's really hard to choose. I have a real soft spot for the original Spanish edition covers, which I don't have like right next to me, so I can't show them off. But I really love them because they were the first edition that had artwork. And
Oh,
if anyone wants to look them up, like the Jade City edition of the Spanish translation is like a callback to Reservoir Dogs poster. So it has like the characters like walking down the street, and it looks like it's clearly an homage to Reservoir Dogs. So I love like having artwork on my books for the first time, and then the new trade paperback covers by Tommy Pocket are like I'm so happy to have them because like again for the first time when the book first came out I think we I mean we didn't really know how exactly to like position it, and so it ended up having this really bold cover with giant font. But I love artwork and was always like, oh, I want artwork on my books. And so seeing the very cinematic look that Tommy Pocket put into the trade paperback reissues was like wonderful. And then I mean my special editions like the Subterranean Press edition, the Broken Binding edition have had some wonderful character artists like Micah Epstein and Randy Vargas and Cheris Loke have like put like, and I know I'm missing some because there's been other artists, um, but seeing those characters um, depicted has been super satisfying because that's what readers tell me that they connect with the most strongly in the books are the characters, and they want to see them. They want to see them on the cover.
yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. To see as if you would have asked me a year ago how many special editions I had, the answer would be zero. I blame the book world for where I'm at now. I won't put any blame on you, but I have made a small investment. But it's like holding that piece of like, wow, this is a story that is so special. To see it in so many different lights is, I can't even imagine on the other end of your creation. It has to just feel an immense appreciation, right, for those who bring it to life.
Absolutely. And I actually remember when I started writing, there was conversation in the publishing industry of like, oh, is like print publication dying? Because like everyone's going to have e-readers or their phone or their tablet, and like that people are moving towards reading digitally. But what's happened is that people now love physical books. Like we're so digitized in everything in our lives that like beautiful physical books are like so coveted and so special. And so yeah, we've just seen, I think, the appetite for that grow.
Yeah. Now, you alluded to things have changed even just from the first decade, from Jade City to now. How do you think the readership has changed? It's been, 2021 was Jade Legacy, and there's been a lot of other releases in between there from YA to novellas, but this I would say is the next full novel. Does it feel different between Jade Legacy and now in the readership and
Hmm.
the special edition piece? We already have a special edition Isako, like pre-order. I'm very, it's ordered. I already have the excitement there. But did you think 10 years ago it's almost a snowball, is an assumption of where we thought it would be to now?
You know, honestly, it does feel like it's kind of just taken on a life of its own. And you know, I'm really grateful for the readers who tell me that like this is one of their, it's sort of strange, it's strange to imagine that it could be, but that the Green Bone Saga is one of their comfort reads. Like there's readers now, I mean, enough time has passed. People are like, I come back to the Green Bone Saga all the time. Like I have reread it multiple times. Um, I'm like, that I don't know if like it would be an intuitive comfort read. It seems kind of stressful to be a comfort read, but people really do just like want to spend more time with the characters and to like and to like and when they tell me that um it holds up to rereading because they find new things in it,
Yeah.
like when they reread. That really satisfies me because that's what I want. What I truly strive for is a reading experience that feels like it matters, that it lasts, that like you that I left you with something, right? If people are like, "Oh yeah, I'm still thinking about your book," like weeks later, I'm like, "Yes, perfect." Like that's what I want is, um, and if the stressful elements of the Greenbone Saga are your comfort read, that's all the better. Hopefully, hopefully they relieve stress elsewhere in your life.
Yes. Like, oh, it's not so bad. I'm not part of the Call family.
Yeah, exactly.
My family drama is not nearly to that extent.
Yeah, yeah. And
And
I think like oh,
go ahead.
I'll also just say that like I am also really cognizant of the fact that like I have like moved into different genres. I've written young adult, I've written YA, I've written really long trilogy, I've written novellas. I've so I have like moved around in medium and in like length and in genre. And there are readers who stuck with me across that. And like that is um and there are of course readers who are like, no, like this is my thing, like I want just more of this. But the readers who've like followed me across all of these different journeys is like it's so it's just really wonderful and touching to me as a writer that like there's something that I give that like that they're willing to trust me in like something new and different.
Do you feel when you're writing those wild swings, right? Like, again, the foundation, the core, the DNA, totally there across. But when you go from YA to Isako and you're spanning, where we're at with Breath of the Dragon up to Isako's, in her 50s.
Hmm.
Do you handle those different in the writing style, or is it just is it the same love attention output, therefore I don't have to do anything different, I'm just telling a different story?
Yeah. I would say the process is pretty much the same in terms of world building, research, character development, drafting. All of that is really similar. I mean, young adult novels are quicker to write because they're shorter, so there's that. But it really just comes down to the character perspective. The young adult novel is going to have
Mhm.
a a rather self-centered and like immature 16 or 18-year-old at its core. And so like the life lessons that they go through, the perspective that they have, the things that they have to learn in the narrative journey are just different than a character like Isako, who's 50 years old. And um, I I I love having that variability. And even in like the Green Bone Saga, I loved having characters, who were in Jade Legacy, there's characters who are young or the next generation. They're teenagers or they're young adults, up to like our protagonists who are now in their mid late 50s, and their perspective is different. The things that occupy their mind are different. And so I think it just comes down to, um, yes, the narrative needs of the genre and the audience, right? Obviously, a young adult reader, a teen reader is going to be expecting something different in terms of length and pacing and so on, but also just the nature of the character and their psychological makeup.
Yeah. And even I'll say I recently did Untethered Sky, which that was, I think, one of the works of yours that I had to look a little bit deeper for you and your writing,
Hmm.
only because there wasn't a huge family
Right,
dynamic, right? It, except for in the flashbacks. And there wasn't a battle outside of the rocks.
right,
And I shared that with my other Greenbone friends. I said, you're going to have a good time. It's less than 200 pages, 200-ish. And it's different and it's the same. And I can't articulate either of those points anymore, like
right, right.
to, to that.
Yeah,
So that's really interesting to hear how it's that character, right? That's what you thrive and why we keep coming back to you, no matter if that character is the child of the protagonist at a young age, they're 20 or they're 50. We find ways to connect with them. So you do a phenomenal job at that.
thank you. And you're right, like Untethered Sky is quite unlike other things I've written, but and the vibes are so different. Like the pacing is
Yeah.
different, the vibes are different. But yeah, it really just comes down to like, okay, what's the voice, the tone and the voice that like fits this character in this world? And that's that's kind of like there's a certain amount of being a chameleon as a writer while always also being yourself. Um, so that's kind of hard to really express, but it is almost like, when an actor plays different roles, and yet they also have their own kind of distinctive acting style. Like even though the characters they're playing in all these different movies or these different shows are different, you can also be like, oh, that is, you know, yeah, of course, it's this character. That's a Brad Pitt character. That's a James Earl Jones character. That's a whatever.
um, I often would describe the the green bone as like a Quentin Tarantino. So I can see, but now I'm like, oh, this is Fonda Lee, right? And it's really interesting to see how in my, again, submersion in this world, it's you're becoming the name of the flavor of what media. Or I have my brother recommending manga based on like, I
Mhm.
think you'll like this because of Jade City. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, totally. Like Fonda Lee would like this. In that same breath, is there anything taking up your airspace? Any books that have really, you've really enjoyed? Music, movies?
So I am in fact an anime fan, and I
Oh,
am really enjoy. So I during the pandemic really got into anime and watched like a ton of anime with my kids. And lately I have been watching. Demons of the Shadow Realm, which is coming out weekly, but by the same writer as my favorite anime of all time, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. So I've been watching that, and I've also been watching Free Ren, which is which is fantastic. It's exactly the sort of anime that is like the has the deep character work that I love, and it starts off as like this slow burn, and the layers of backstory get unveiled, and yeah, I'm enjoying that a lot.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I have one question from the Green Bone community. I let a few people know. I was like, this thing is gonna happen. Fellow Lantern men. What would we ask? The amount of how dare you?
I feel like that's a
The how
rhetorical
dare you?
question.
It's all in good fun, and you have multiple challenges to a clean blade.
I know.
And uh
I would not survive all these challenges.
so the overall, if I were to put all of that was the first bullet in a lot of these. I think I asked about seven people. It was like, how dare her, clean blade? Does she like hurting our feelings? Which I think is the point I will sum it up to. And again, we can't talk too much about Isako, but is that does it happen on purpose, or is it when you go into these characters and their storyline, there it is, and it's I don't want to say it's out of your control, but well, there's
Hmm.
there's the path.
Hmm. It's both. It, it's it is definitely satisfying for me to drink readers' tears.
Oh,
That
good,
said,
good.
I also um, let the story go where it needs to go without really accommodating readers' feelings. And in that, like, I want them to be emotionally engaged. And if I've done my job right, they'll go along with my characters wherever that takes them, including into some very difficult and tragic places. And so I don't set out being like, oh, this is a story where I want to emotionally ruin people. Like, I don't set out to do that. But at the same time, like, when those opportunities arise, I'm like, yes, this feels right. Like, this feels right for the character. And I want people to feel it. Like, I do want those emotional moments to hit, not because I managed to do something, pull some magic levers, but because you just care about these fictional people. And like, that's the most I can ask for, is that like I can make characters that feel real enough to care about as humans and to just write human beings. And that's what I set out to do, honestly. Just write human beings. And the emotional trauma just comes from loving, characters
Being
who are in bad situations.
And I think and that's one of the things that is so beautiful about reading as a whole, storytelling across media, right?
Hmm.
Is to feel such human deep emotion for such fictional characters.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of good storytelling. And that's where Greenbone and Isako lands. I'm also a little bit of I don't drink the reader's tears because I haven't wrote anything, but I do have a folder in my um, photos app of reactions to people
Oh,
reading Green Bone,
that's
whether
that's
it's
wonderful.
texts, or I do have like some photos of my friends crying, and there is a home for all of those, so a different level of impact.
I love that.
Um, so Isako comes out in a few days.
Mhm.
We've got the Mark of the Warrior in the fall. Is there anything else coming up that we can talk that you know of that you want to talk about, or is it full steam ahead
Well,
on these two?
So yes, getting these two out in the world, and I am in conversations with my editor right now about what the next project is. Almost certainly it will be a return to fantasy series. Um, and that's all that I can say right now. But I am hankering to write another big series. I'm at the like point where like I finished Green Bone Saga. I had like a novella spin-off and some short stories in that world, but I had this big long-term project that wrapped up and I was like, oh my goodness. Thank goodness that I'm done. Like now I'm gonna go off and write shorter stuff, which I did. So I've spent several years writing some shorter things, including the young adult duology, Breathmarked, and now the standalone with Isako. And I'm starting to feel like I'm ready to do another series. So don't hold me to it, but that's the direction that I'll almost certainly go.
No accountability, only excitement. Only excitement. But we are at time, and I just wanted to thank you. This has been an incredibly great conversation. I'm so excited for Isako. I loved the story. So thank you so much for your time, and happy release week. I mean, it's only a
Thank
few
you.
days. I feel
I
like we can say
know.
that.
And thank you
Yeah.
again so much for all that you do and for your support and for your energy and passion and the whole Green Bone Saga community. It means a ton to me.
Oh, I will extend that to my fellow Lanternmen and Greenbone on the internet. But thank you again. I just need you to hang out for 1 second after I hit stop.
Yeah.
I'll edit that out.